Hello everyone, my name is Alexa Christic and this is my class project presentation for the course CSE335. Today's date is December 1st and today we'll be talking about this app I have developed called Team Finder. So the purpose of the Team Finder app is to find other individuals with like-minded interests so that you can collaborate with them, work on projects or join a sports team or go fishing. Basically, let's say you wanted to develop an app but you don't know the right people. The people around you maybe don't know how to program, or you just don't know anyone who can help you out with this. Purpose of Team Finder is you can use the app to search for people with similar interests, and you can contact them, and you can get your project off the ground. So this is the general layout of the app. First, we have a login screen. Before we can log in, we have to register. And so when we register, we enter a valid email and a password, and we click save. And if the email is valid, which is checked by Firebase authentication, um, we're going to be taken to the My Profile screen. So here we have, excuse me, the UI image view. You can click edit and pick a different picture or a camera, or use your camera and take a picture. You have the description. You can edit this field and put whatever you like, whatever interest that you have. Here we have the location. We click edit location. We can change it, and after we've changed everything to our liking, we can click save, and it's going to take us back to login screen. So now that we've logged in, or now that we've registered, we can log in. So we type in our email, our password, and then we log in, and we're taken to the landing screen. So the quote of the day is, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." And this is the author. So this is done using a web API call to a website that provides inspirational quotes. Here's a description. We don't care about that since we already know what we're talking about right now. Down here where we have two buttons, we can click on profile. It's going to take us to the same screen we were at earlier, um, except here you can change everything, and then whatever you decide to change, you can click save. Upon clicking save, it's going to notify um, Firebase that you want to upload the information to the database, and it's going to be saved there for persistent storage. So the next time you look at your profile, or the next time someone else looks at your profile, it's going to show that information. Um, Clicking back and going back to the landing screen, we have search. If we click the search button here, and when we search, uh, we're first going to be greeted with our location with our email above it, and then we have the location of other users. So we don't want to look at our own profile, we want to look at someone else's profile. So if we click on a pin, it's going to show us their email, and then next to it, it's going to have a plus. So upon clicking the plus, we're going to see a detailed view of the user's profile. So just like in my profile, um, we can see the user's profile, and it has their email, it has their profile picture, the description, and all this information is downloaded from Firebase. Just the same way it was saved and uploaded, it's downloaded, and anyone can look at anybody else's profile. So now we go to the next screen, and this is our UML class diagram for this application. So I'm just going to briefly talk about the purpose and the functionality of each view controller and model, and then we're going to move on and talk about something else. So here we have the view controller. All the view controller does is display the quote, and it has two buttons, search seg and profile seg, to take you to the different views. And upon loading this view and the function view did load, it's going to do the web API call to display the quote, which then populates these fields here. So clicking on profile seg, we're going to go to the profile view controller. So in profile view controller, we have UI image picker, some references to Firebase, and some labels and an image view. So on view did load, it's going to download the information from Firebase and populate all your preferences, your description, your picture, and your location. We have buttons here: edit location, edit picture. It's pretty self-explanatory what they do. Open camera is a function to handle taking a picture with the camera when changing your profile picture. Open library is a function to handle picking an image from your library. This is a function to did finish picking media with info. Basically, when you finish selecting your image from library, it's going to call this function. Dismiss is just to close, and this is if you cancel. Whoop, if you cancel the image picker, it's going to call this function. Image picker controller did cancel. And then you have the save info button when upon clicked is going to upload the information to Firebase. Going back to the view controller here, if we click search tag, it's going to take us to search for view controller, and we have the map, Firebase reference, we have a string for the location, we have a user array of users, and we have a selected name, which is the name of the annotation that is currently tapped. So upon loading, nothing really happens. There's just an empty map and a search button. And when you click search pressed here, it's going to display the users around you um, who have also signed up with the app. And then complete search is called as a completion handler for the search. And these two functions here, this first function, view for annotation, just creates custom annotations to display the user's emails. And the second function here, um, this is to allow a button to exist. So when pressed, it's going to take us to the detail view. So let's look at the detail view. Here we have different labels for the user's information, the profile image, the emails, the various strings to populate these fields, and then we have the view did load function and the receive memory warning. The only thing that happens in this view controller is that the view loads, and then it's going to take the information from the user class and populate the labels and the profile picture. And then lastly, we have our user class, which I created so that instead of making database references every time I need data from Firebase, I can just make one class that handles all that information immediately, and then just call on that class when I need specific information about a user or anything like that. So here you can see that we have different strings for the different bits of information about the user, and then here we have an init function, two init functions actually. One so we can initialize it empty, and the other one is so that we can pass a Firebase data snapshot and then use that snapshot. It's parsed already in here in the user class, so we don't have to necessarily manipulate that data from Firebase directly every single time we are in the controller. We just have it ready and available in the user class. Okay, so let's talk about the model view controller architecture. So in the MVC architecture, we have the model, which retrieves the user information from Firebase, the email, location, description, and picture. It authenticates users by email. It stores the profile pictures and the other information. The way the model interacts with the controller is it tells the controller, okay, download the email, picture, description, location, and it notifies the controller of a successful or failed login, successful or failed registration in order to trigger a segue. Here, let's talk about the controller next. Yeah. So we have the controller. It sends updates to Firebase, basically telling it to upload the new information filled in by the user on the view, and it extrapolates data from the user model. So it takes that data and it manipulates it in a way so that it can be displayed on the view. It updates map annotations. It passes the Firebase snapshot to the user model so that that can parse the information. It handles the image picker, it handles geocoding, it makes web API calls to display the quote, it retrieves user interactions from the view, and it updates the user profile with the new data from Firebase. How it interacts with the model is it tells Firebase to update the database, it tells it to update the storage, and it tells it about a new user or a login so that the database can include that information. Now let's lastly talk about the view. So in the view, we display the user profile and all the other views such as login, the profile, picture, handling touches, displaying the quote, the map and the pins, and other users' profiles. And all this information is updated in real time because of Firebase. And the way the view interacts with the controller is all the functions that a user performs. So if they press buttons, if they upload a profile picture, if they fill in a text field, they log in, register, perform a search, or save changes to their profile, all of that goes to the controller to be sent to the model. All that information is passed to the model, and then it's stored in the database, which can then be sent back to the view if the controller so requests to download it and then manipulate the data and pass it to the view. And the way the controller passes that data to the view is it passes strings to fill labels in text fields, it loads the current profile picture, loads other users' profiles, sends the coordinate info, send info from the web API. And our controller handles the geocoding, so it's going to send that coordinate information when we're populating the map. Okay, and the next things I want to talk about are capabilities and limitations of the app. So the app finds other users and it stores information across devices, but there's currently no way to make contact using the app itself, and the profile could probably use more sections for personal information, such as like prior work experience, or maybe a more in-depth, your name and your interests and in different information, so that another user can get to know you better before they decide to contact you. In addition, it performs those basic functions I already talked about, and it allows also for the user to view other profiles to retrieve information. We already talked about that. However, it lacks a more robust feature set, such as allowing the user to filter search results using keywords. So instead of one by one clicking on profiles and deciding who you want to talk to, a potential feature could be entering a keyword into a search box and just clicking on those people that appear from the search, because they already have um, those keywords in their description or in their profile somewhere. And also, a messaging interface would help with communicating. And these features were actually intended to be in the app, and due to time constraints and the lack of my own knowledge developing these sort of features, um, they've been cut from the final version. This is because we've never really dealt with messaging or complex kind of searching algorithms using keywords, and I didn't really have enough time to research these topics before I could implement it into the app itself. So those are some mistakes that I've made, and so here are the lessons learned. So the user experience is crucial. It's a big deal, especially concerning app development, that the user is having a good experience. So it's not just about creating programs that receive input and provide the correct output. Correct output or correct functionality is more subjective in app development like this, and proper planning definitely more important. If I had planned this out easier, maybe I could have included those other features that were missed. Time management, same story. If I had maybe managed my time better, um, I could have time to research the things that I wanted to do, and they could have been included into the version of this app. And the last thing is entering the development stage with a strong sense of the app's functionality. So I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I found that as I developed the app, more and more problems were arising with my kind of vague definition of what I want the app to do. So I think in the future, it would be best for me to kind of write down exactly the requirements for the app and find out, at least in a rudimentary way, how I'm going to implement the requirements that I want and how I'm going to provide that functionality, and really know what this app accomplishes and how it accomplishes the things it's supposed to do before I enter the development stage. And the last thing I want to talk about in this video is why this class is important and what I've learned from doing this project and other projects in this class. Um, the first point is the usage of technologies that are applicable in commercial software development. So throughout computer science, the courses that I've taken so far as a CS major, they've never really focused on the idea of developing applications that someone will actually use to do something. It's more about, do you know programming language is enough to take an input and produce the correct output. Now, in this class, it's more about, do you know enough? Do you have the ability to produce a decent UI and a functional app that solves a need for somebody? And even if this app doesn't really solve anything for anybody, um, it is a good step in the right direction. It is something that got me to think in that manner, which is not something that I've had in different classes before. Um, Second thing, similar to my first point, is developing applications with the user experience in mind. So just making apps that programs that are to be used by other people. So you have to think about, what is the user going to think when they're using your app. It's not just about the correct output. Once again, it's about how does the user interact and how do they feel, and are they going to like what you have created. And the last thing that I think is super beneficial, and I'm really happy that I got to experience this in this course, is that I got to use helpful software development practices that I've learned before, and I've seen them applied in a purposeful manner. So we come up with UML class diagrams, a prototype, an idea, um, a sketch of the UI, and a sketch of the MVC architecture. And these are things that I've learned, throughout being a computer science major. Um, Now that I'm actually applying those software development practices and seeing how they are really the foundation of creating meaningful software. It's really great to actually get an applicable example of how to use those different methods, instead of just learning it and being tested on it. Actually having this practice um, is really beneficial to me, I think, and especially things like web API calls and JSON processing. That's something that's very standard in modern computing today, and I think that's something that's always going to be valuable to me. Well, that's the end of my presentation. I appreciate you listening to this, and have a nice day.